Glory gets sent to limp across the finishing line of 2025 and an all WA Perth Glory. Is it madness or genius in disguise? All that and more coming up. This is the Far Post Perth podcast presented by ID Athletic for all your merchandise and all your screen printing and everything else that you might be requiring. Visit idathletic.com and, of course, Trio Homes. If you're looking to build, redesign or renovate, visit triohomes.com.au. Coming to you a little bit differently on this episode 26, believe it or not, of the Far Post Perth for 24-25 season. And, illness has struck a few, so we're keeping well and truly isolated. We're coming to you via a little bit of a virtual setup for this episode. So Jackson Bassett's with us. Jackson, thanks for jumping on, mate.
All right. I feel like I'm back at uni again on the old video call. It's a nice little throwback.
Oh, yeah, I know. Through those COVID times, mate, when everyone was just jumping on the virtual platforms. Neil Sherwin's with us, mate. You're the sick one.
Well, one of the sick ones. I'm going to blame my almost 5-month-old daughter for bringing us the first experience of what it's like with a sick kid. So, yeah, she can take that one on the chin. Why not? She can't speak and defend herself, so why not?
There you go. Guys, another big week. As I mentioned, we're kind of just limping across the finishing line for Perth Glory fans at the moment. There's a little bit happening locally, I guess, as far as the NPL and state leagues is ramping up. Sunday football's ramping up, which is pretty good. So, we'll get through this stuff. Let's start with the good, the bad, and the ugly as always. Jackson, kick us off with your good.
For me, it's Wrexham.
No.
I don't know why you're opposed to this, Neil. As the City fan, you should know what it's like when clubs come in with a lot of money, more money than their competitors.
But people hate City, and everybody loves Wrexham. This is not a fairy tale. I know you can. It's your soapbox.
Well, I mean, money aside, it's still a very impressive achievement to do 3 straight promotions, and it just perfectly illustrates that you don't have to have owners with football knowledge to be successful. Ross Pellier probably knows more about football than both Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, but they've been smart in who they've chosen to make the football decisions. In terms of the recruitment, it's been fantastic. Hasn't been outrageous in terms of the spending, but the quality of players they've brought in, it's a good mix of experience and some young players in there as well. And I think a lot of credit has to go to Phil Parkinson as well. I think the way he's been able to manage this group, which has had to change and develop as they've progressed over the leagues. When you look at the team that was in the National League, it's pretty much unrecognizable from that. And I think it's very impressive that for a manager to manage the amount of talent at his disposal and having to adjust year on year. It's not easy to go up and keep being competitive as the leagues get tougher, but that's what they've done. But now they face the biggest test of all in the championship, which is it's amazing. You never know what could happen, but I find it hard to believe that they're going to make it 4 straight promotions in a row. But they've got the ideal preparation coming down to Sydney and playing some A-League teams, so we'll see how they go.
How do you reckon they will go? Because, I mean, as someone who watches a fair bit of the championship, for me, it's the hardest, by far and away, one of the hardest leagues, if not the hardest league in the world to conquer. Just due to there's so many games. You got midweekers every other week. You've got, traveling all around the country. It is. I feel it's probably a huge step from League One to Championship. Neil, Jackson, where do you guys sit on it? I mean, how will Wrexham fare?
Well, I mean, money isn't an object, so they'll just buy another team that can compete. Like, that's what they've done in the other leagues. They've not gone in there, and it's not been an even playing field as such. They've spent. Yes, they haven't spent, I suppose, recklessly, pun intended. But they have had players. I mean, everybody's favourite scout striker was dropping down 2 leagues for more money to bang in goals against a load of part-timers. So, like, that's why it's not fairy tale stuff. They should be winning the league with the money that they've got. Phil Parkinson isn't some guy who goes and does plumbing in people's bathrooms on his spare time. He's a manager that coached at good clubs, Charlton, Hull, Bradford. You know, he's got plenty of experience of what it takes to win lower leagues. You hand a manager like that an open checkbook as such, and he's going to win things. And I think it would actually be more shocking if they didn't get promoted, given the fanfare. What I will give Reynolds and McElhenney credit for is that they haven't just done it with the playing side of it. They are invested in the infrastructure, right? And that's to me is just as important if you want to leave a legacy. And I'll take it back to the City point. As much as City have absolutely bought and spent millions and millions on the field, they've also put money into the stadium, the training facilities, the community, all of that. And I think that side of it is very important, and Wrexham have done it very well. And I think it does set them up to be sustainable in the Championship if they do stay there for 2 or 3 years, because you at some point have to roll back on just throwing money at players and generate your own revenue, and having a good stadium and having the facilities that attract people to games, as we well know here, right? For people with kids and everything else, they don't want to be pissing up against the wall. They do want running water, and they want decent toilets, and they want food and drinks and everything else. So you are going to have to cater for that. So I think they've done well. I think also that you're right. The Championship is one of the most competitive leagues anywhere. It's a tough league to get out of. There are some very good storied clubs in that with fan bases, and I think there are also going to be a lot of hatred towards Wrexham for reasons that I have, and I don't hate them. It's a bit jokey, but I think people will want them to fail, because as you go up the leagues and you have the success story and the media big you up, there's always somebody waiting to tear you down, and there's plenty of ruthless, tough clubs in the Championship that will be only too happy to oblige. I'm sure the likes of Millwall and whatnot, fans will be delighted to welcome happy-go-lucky Wrexham to the Den next year. I know, so I don't think it'll be easy for them. I think they'll survive because they'll spend enough money to do so, and they'll have bigger coffers than a lot of the other clubs. But I don't expect them to have it easy, and I wouldn't think that another promotion is on the cards.
Never has the question, can they get it done on a cold Wednesday night at Stoke, been more apt, I think. But it is. I mean, going to places like, you know, Sunderland and, you know, Stadium of Light, and whether they can deal with that's certainly on another level compared to what they've been through in League One. But hey, there we go. Neil, carry on, mate. What's been good?
Well, as one club throws money at winning a title, another has done the same here with Auckland. And I know we're in the salary cap league and whatnot, but they have big name owners. They've come into the competition with Auckland, started a team from scratch, and they've been the best team. And it's funny that their only real blip on their copybook was a loss in Perth a few months ago. Otherwise, you know, they've been close to exemplary. They had a flying start to the year, which really set them up. And they built a team that was good from back to front. I think that it's a very balanced squad, which can be hard to do in salary cap leagues, because a lot of money tends to go towards attackers and you become very top heavy. And that's been the case with some teams down through the years, but they've conceded 23 goals in 25 games. They've been good to watch, and they look like they will carry that strength now after a little bit of a wobble into finals, and they're the team to beat. So I think it's a really good success story for the league as well, given some of the other expansion teams haven't been so flash. And Auckland is a big city, right? We're not talking about going into a backwater here. We're talking about going into a major city with an appetite clearly for football. And it was important for them to hit the ground running. And I think this probably even exceeded the expectations of everybody involved. But it's very, very good for the league, I think.
Yeah. No, that was also my good. And as much as I'm not a huge fan of concessions and everything like that for starter clubs, I think if we didn't have Auckland in the league this year, it would have just been much of the same. And there is a real feeling that with all the and we'll kind of get into this, with all the changes to the salary cap, the austerity kind of measures and everything else like that we can't really kind of go for any big names, or at least the big names have kind of dwindled a fair bit compared to previous years. It brought a little bit of refreshment to the league, and just the rivalry with, of course, Wellington. Now you had a couple of teams go over there, and they were given a bit of stick, and the old Kiwis aren't going to be pushed around or anything else like that. So. Just built some narratives around the league, and I thought that was really good. And as you suggest, maybe the one of the biggest ones for the season was them getting knocked off by a pretty ordinary Perth Glory side. Jackson, keep going with your bad, mate.
Well, I've got you two in my sights this week, based on last week's podcast. I guess we can call it the podcaster's curse. For those of you who might have missed it last week, Neil's good was about the entertainment and the goal fest we had last weekend. And then it comes to this week, and we have 7 goals across the whole weekend, and only 4 in the Saturday and Sunday games. And then, Blaine, probably this one's aimed more at you. You just had to open your mouth about MacArthur. They were doing nothing. They were going about their business. And then all of a sudden, they've taken Football Australia to court, claiming that they've breached consumer law and adopted unfair tactics regarding payments and stuff. They're seeking damages. It's a whole messy thing, and it just brings them back into the limelight for all the wrong reasons. I mean, I don't know how long this is going to play out for. I think it was in court today. I think it was the first day of the hearing, as far as I know. But it's just more football in Australia is shooting ourselves in the foot. If it is true what they're claiming, then it really sucks for them, because they had to take a $5 million loan out to keep the club going. And we talked about, I think this kind of alludes to the point we made last week about the salary cap and why we need it, because if you've got teams who are not making money, or they're having to loan money to keep the club afloat, then it probably is wise to keep everything in check and making sure that clubs don't go bust. Because I know we're seeing with the Mariners at the moment, there's even rumours about them and what their future looks like. So, yeah, it's not a good look for MacArthur, and hopefully, for the FA's sake, they can get through this.
Neil, this goes back to a conversation we've had a number of times, particularly around Western United and MacArthur. And I'm paraphrasing you when you said, when you have a look at it and break it all down, who actually wants these clubs in the league? And that's not to try and be derogatory or anything else like that. And I believe that we should be having these clubs. But does this go back to just due diligence on both the club's part and FA to make sure that these clubs are ticking boxes compliantly, but also the fact that they need to be successful, they need to be sustainable, and MacArthur's probably at the bottom of that stack if we look at those measures.
Well, I think you look at the disaster that was the initial Glory takeover, where we had a failed bid. I mean, that didn't work out well, did it, in terms of due diligence and making sure everything was in order. I think as much as people deride the City Football Group, and hear me out on this, the City Football Group, as well as the owners of Auckland with the Black Knight stuff, it's a safer bet to take them in as owners of a club, because they've at least proven it. And we're in a very difficult situation where football isn't the number one sport and struggles for funding and whatnot. So the last thing you want to do is have unstable owners and instability across clubs. CFG and the Auckland gang are, as I said, proven in other countries. So you know what you're getting yourself into. I feel like, and my bad, and I might as well tack it on here, was going to be Western United, and the potential that they've been so good on the field, not just this season, but since their inception. The talk of them being in big trouble with not paying superannuation to to employees of the company of Steve Horvath. and putting the money into Western United instead. I mean, that AFR report yesterday, it was long, but it was detailed and very important to read to get a grasp on what's been happening. And these issues keep coming up, and we can't afford to have clubs being in bother every year. The Mariners, there's talk of them having no money or funding or anything for next season as well, and they could be in trouble. So yeah, we have to be very, very careful, and I think that it is definitely negligent on the governing body's part to give licenses out to people who can't sustain them. As I said, at least with CFG and Auckland, they look like they're here for the long haul, and they're not going anywhere. So as much as people don't like this multi-club ownership model, it probably works in Australia, at least while we continue to push for eyes and ears on the game.
We all kind of scoffed at Stephen Lowy back in the day when he said the clubs, when it was the whole unbundling and everything else like that. And he said, careful what you wish for, even though the clubs and Tony Sage at the time and a few other owners were just like, we need to be in control of our own destiny. But geez, in hindsight, it's really wondering what's going on. With how the league is governed and operates. It's a little bit similar to the NBL in a way that sustainability for a lot of different sporting codes is going to be super important, and it's already super reliant on broadcast deals. Essentially, if you don't get a top-notch broadcast deal, then your clubs will suffer. And we've seen clubs in both the A-League and the NBL go under in previous seasons, and it's just starting to get a little bit dicey as far as the NBL goes as well. So there's a little bit of watch this space, but I guess to carry on, the state of the clubs was mine. Perth and Newcastle have been under financial stress. Central Coast, Western United, Macarthur, Brisbane is still a little bit unsure what's happening there as far as the Bakrie group. Are they just using it to funnel some tax through and everything else like that? What will be interesting is, as I said, these austerity measures that are going to be coming in across the league, and how the clubs come out of that. Where are we up to, guys? Neil's bad, I think.
Well, yeah, Western United and the Mariners are going to be mine, just the data around them.
We're all on the same page. Yep.
Yeah, pretty much just the uncertainty around the clubs. We get to this time of the year, and that's where the gossip starts. And look, who's going to be around next year? And we just can't afford to lose any clubs. We've got 13. I really want us to get up to 18 someday. I just don't want to see any backward steps, really.
Yeah. And does this bring in the feasibility of the national second division into a little bit more question as well? How does that look? That's
got a lot to prove over the next few years, put it that way.
Yeah. No, all good. Jackson, what's been ugly?
I couldn't decide between Liverpool winning the league or the absolute monstrosity that was the pitch at Suncorp Stadium. I mean, I'm glad I'm not in high school anymore and I don't have to deal with my mates, who are quite a few of them are Liverpool supporters, so I have avoided them rubbing in my face. And the Suncorp thing was just, it was just horrible to look at. I tweeted that the pitch across from my place was in better nick than Suncorp, and it's not wrong. It was just absolutely dreadful. And the other thing that I wanted to question, I thought was quite odd, is they had a crowd of 6,000 there, which is actually not too bad for the Raw. But I just find it weird that they have all the crowd sitting camera side. So when you're watching on TV, you just see all the banners and the empty seats on the other side of the ground. It just seems very strange to me, the way they've got it set up. But, I mean, the Raw got a win, so good on them. They've avoided the spoon, but, yeah, that pitch was just a laughing stock. And even with 6,000, it still didn't look great. And I think just, again, Perry Park, probably the best alternative. If you're only going to get like 5,000 or so for that club, then a smaller venue is going to be required.
Yeah, I mean that goes without saying. It's Neil spoke about it last week about probably Brisbane's probably the worst of the lot as far as their stadium situation. And yeah, I mean, they've just, Football Queensland and Brisbane Roar and probably a few of the other stakeholders just need to bite the bullet as far as getting Perry Park over the line for me. There's no alternative. Redcliffe hasn't worked. They've tried Ballymore, doesn't work. It's not accessible. Whereas Perry Park's pretty close to the city. You can grab a public transport there. Everyone knows it. You know, the old Brisbane Strikers used to play there. In fact, I think they still do. So, yeah, a little bit. It is a little bit ugly as far as that goes. Neil, ugly?
Well, yeah, I mean, the Liverpool shout is perfect because it is very ugly to see them win a legitimate title after the tainted one in 2020 in COVID times. No notes, no replies, no nothing. No, but the ugly for me is we had the fan forum last week with Glory. We had a great win, and you know, what we really needed to back that up was some sort of show of passion and display for the badge and a bit of heart and whatnot. And instead we got such an ugly, ugly performance. I know it's top against bottom. I know it's away in Auckland. I know they're in party mode. I know the Glory aren't very good, but they served up an absolute horror show. So yeah, that for me was just beyond ugly. And I just felt it was a whole load of nothing and 90 minutes that those people who watched it can't get back. So yeah, I just expected a little bit more. You've got nothing to lose, nothing to play for. You're getting the wooden spoon, but at least go out and give us something in these last two games. And that was just, I think, and you may need to bleep this out, but it was a limp dick performance.
Are we allowed to keep that in? I don't know where that stands on the ACMA rules, but yeah, I might have to.
I'll let the producer figure that part out.
Yeah, thanks. Really appreciate that. My ugly boys. Going into our predictions, I think all of us picked Sydney FC to be there or thereabouts, possibly title contenders. They're on track to miss out on finals. That's got to be on the ugly side of things. I know they've had a rough season. They've had Asia to deal with, you know, and everything else like that. But this is a side that's much better than seventh. This is a huge failure for Sydney FC, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, the most underperforming team of the year. Yeah, without a doubt.
I couldn't find anything else for that. I was
Asian distraction. They had the Asian distraction, which is fair enough. You know, it's hard playing on the continent to travel and everything else, but they left themselves a lot of work to do months ago. You know, with flip-flopping performances, sometimes really good, sometimes maybe shit, as Rino Gattuso said. 10 wins, 7 draws, and 8 losses. You know, it's really poor. They should not be having their finals hopes go down to the last game for me.
No, I think they're in trouble. I think Melbourne City's going to do them, and that'll be the end of that. So. Yeah, not much chop at the moment for Sydney FC fans. Righto, boys, we might wrap things up there. We'll take a very, very quick break and we'll come back on the other side. We'll take a little bit more of a deep dive into the Perth Glory. You are on the Far Post Perth podcast.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Tired of the same old cookie-cutter home designs? Dreaming of a space that truly reflects you? Then it's time to talk to the team at Trio Homes. Whether you're looking to build your dream home, redesign your current space, or simply renovate, Trio Homes is committed to unique designs, local personalised service and quality workmanship. And with former Perth Glory star Dino Julbich at the helm, you'll know you're getting passion and dedication built into every project. Discover the difference with Trio Homes. Visit triohomes.com.au.
Welcome back to the Far Post Perth, a podcast. Blaine Treadgold, Neil Sherwin and Jackson Bassett chewing the fat on what has been. Well, boys, as I said at the top, we are, as Perth Glory fans, limping to the end of the season. Many have already checked out, and maybe it looks like some of the players might have checked out from across the weekend as well. It was just a narrow loss as far as the scoreline to Auckland, top of the pops, but geez, it would have been nice to show a little bit of heart and maybe walk away with a bit of something. Neil, you had it as far as your ugly, mate, but take us a little bit more into what you witnessed across the weekend.
So they were absolutely battered. I wasn't. It was like I'm not one to get involved in XG, but it was so one-sided. 2.66 expected goals to 0.34. Glory managed a total of 4 shots, 0 on target to Auckland's 28 shots. Now, in fairness, Auckland weren't exactly. They weren't efficient with their efforts. Only 5 of those 28 were on target. Ollie Sale did make a unbelievable save from Max Mata in the first half to keep it scoreless, but also has to be questions around the defending on the corner from Marley Francois that went straight in at the back post. Do you have defenders on the post? When I'm playing in goal, I do like a defender on the post if the numbers allow. But yeah, they just need to do better with that set piece. I mean, if you're going to go back to the wall and in open play frustrate the opposition, the last thing you want to do is give up a soft goal from a set piece. That was after the hour mark, and after that, the game just fizzled out, really. So we didn't get to see Seb Despotovsky. We didn't get to see much of anybody, really. And it was just 90 minutes, as I said earlier, that people are not going to get back from a Glory perspective. Just a bit of a damp squib. Really disappointing, again.
I mean, I didn't see the game on the weekend. I was tied up with the little one at our place and everything else like that, but just reflecting on that win earlier in the season, one thing that we did pick up on, myself and Tommy Dolman, when we were commentating that one, was they allowed Auckland to have a lot of the ball on that occasion. It wasn't something that Auckland was used to. How did that scenario go on the weekend, or was it just they just ran all over Perth? Because I was interested to see the difference in the different fixtures, considering they had total opposite results.
Well, they had a lot more of the ball, especially in the first half. I think it was like 60-40, something like that. They had all the control, and then I think Glory managed to claw back a little bit in the second half. But I'm not even worried about the possession and letting them have the ball. It's more just creating absolutely nothing going forward. I think we really missed Pennington in midfield with his passes and his directness. I think that really made it tough to give Taggart and Pemmon any service. And I think this sums it up best in terms of passes into the final third. The Glory's three players who had the most passes into the attacking third were Masau, Risdon and Murchula, so they really relied on going out wide and Murchula's long balls. Even when the subs came on, I mean, Ngo was direct and managed to create a little bit, looked a little bit lively, and Bagari as well had a late shot that went wide. But yeah, Taggart got absolutely nothing apart from the half chance from Amos's through ball in the first half, which would have been completely against the run of play. But yeah, all facets of the game just got absolutely destroyed. I thought Sale was pretty good besides that mistake. I think he has to deal with that ball in from Francois better. And I thought the centre-backs were quite solid. Tommy Murchula was always in the way, making clearances and blocks. And Callum Jekadumi was pretty solid. He did get outmuscled and outplayed a little bit by Mata early on and got the yellow card 25 minutes in, but I thought after that he was quite solid and made a good clearance nearly off the line in the second half. So I think as far as the defensive resolve, it was pretty solid. The main worry was just no creativity at all. Nothing from Miliusnic, nothing from Osler. And then Pemmon and Taylor kind of just left to feed on scraps and couldn't really do much. So yeah, I got to agree with Neil. It was a really disappointing way. It was a disappointing watch for 90 minutes just to see us get outplayed and do nothing with the ball. Yeah.
I also think that, like, at this stage, I mean, I don't know what the situation is with a lot of these players, if they're going to be here next year or that they already know that they're not. But surely a couple of them are seeing it as an opportunity to play for a place and play for a contract. And if you don't want to be here, that's fine. It's a job at the end of the day. Go to another club, get paid there, or whatever. But you hear some of the players talking as they really care about it. Sure, I want to play here, really want Glory to be bigger and better and all of that. Well, then show it. Show that you care. It just feels like that they're not that I'm not going to accuse anybody of downing tools. That's too extreme. I don't think that people are just not trying. I just feel there's a lack of care in it and the performances, and not leaving everything on the pitch. Basically, there's some of those players have a lot more to give than what I've seen in recent weeks, and we actually saw quite a lot of it in the Adelaide game. And I guess that's what's frustrating, that they can do that. And I'm not expecting them to go to Auckland and win as such, but I'm also not expecting for absolutely nothing to happen for 90 minutes. There's some players there that are better than what they're showing. And do they deserve to be around next year? I would say some of them probably don't at this stage, and there's going to be a clear out. But yeah, just really disappointing. Like, after the high of winning a game, which is really nice, to go down to this, really chalk and cheese stuff.
You mentioned about clearing out. I mean, that'll be the third almost clear out in a season. We can't keep going. We can't keep going like this. We're going to run out of players eventually. I don't know. I'm struggling, and it's something that we've spoken about probably ad nauseum. But what is the actual strategy to, I guess, player recruitment, player identification, and anything else like that? I'm really interested. But are we just at that point that it's not working? Let's clear out again. We'll get another 10 blokes in.
You can't keep finishing last, right? So you can't keep faith in the people that are finishing last to a point. And you also can't clear out everybody because you need foundations. Now, as far as we're aware, there's 3 players coming in. So, I mean, take from that what you will. Or do you think that they're players that you want in your squad or could build around, or are they squad players? I don't know how that looks. But yeah, I mean, if that's the standard of players that you're bringing in, so it's Scott Wootton from Wellington, Sam Sutton from Wellington, and the return of Callum Timmins from Newcastle. Now, all A-League quality players, yes, but are they, one, better than what's already there, and 2, going to improve your starting 11? Probably good squad players and whatnot, but are they going to improve? That's my question. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll come in and they'll be great, and Sam Sutton might be the answer at left back, and Scott Wootton fills a bit of a hole that we've had at centre back in terms of leadership and whatnot, and maybe Callum Timmins has learned a lot since he left Glory, and to be fair, he was excellent when he played here for the Jets earlier on in the season. So maybe they will, but is that where we're at in terms of the recruitment? Because to me, it feels like cheap options, right? So, I don't know what you guys think, but I'm just, they feel like it's a bit of their revolving door signings. You'll lose 3 players of similar quality and you'll bring in 3 players. It's not going to kick Glory on to improve in the starting 11. I don't feel anyway at this stage.
I mean, I 100% agree. They're not world beaters. They're A-League squad players for me. They can do a job. Yep. But they're not going to light the world on fire or turn the club around. They're not going to get people excited. You could probably go through majority of the WA football community and they wouldn't know who Scott Wootton or Sam Sutton is. They might know a little bit about Cal Timmins, considering he's been here previously. But Jackson, they're not going to set the world on fire. I mean, it's much of a muchness for me.
Yeah, for those 3 in particular, I agree. But I don't think you don't need world beaters in every single position. I think with the way the club is at the moment, if you've just got some good solid A-League players, both in the starting 11 and then as backup, that's going to be solid enough. I mean, I think Sam Sutton is an upgrade on what we've got at the moment. Scott Wooden is one I'm a bit unsure of. We already have Merchler in there at centre back, who is the experienced veteran and kind of the leader. And then you've got Adriana Labib and Majeka Dume as your young players coming up. And then Timmins, I guess, is good cover for the midfield, but I don't think he's an upgrade on Amos or Pennington. But if he is the backup or the third midfielder, then I think they are solid additions. They're not spectacular, but it's building in the right direction. It's obviously hard to tell at this early stage. They have not been announced yet. We haven't seen who else is going to be surrounding them, but they're good acquisitions early on. Hopefully there is some more exciting names that are going to be announced to surround them, especially in the front third when we need someone who's a bit more dynamic and exciting to, light up the crowd like Castro was and like Fornaroli was.
Yeah, I think your point's a good one in the sense of I have no problem with bringing in good quality A-League players if we're putting in that bit of spice in the mix as well. And that just hasn't happened in the last 3, 4, 5 years that we have brought in good quality A-League players. There are journeyman players and players well used to the league that have come in, but they just haven't raised the bar. And what we're missing is those 1 or 2 sprinkles to do that. And it's glaringly obvious in that number 10 role that we've been crying out for years now. It's always been when the squad has been confirmed for the year. So, we don't have a number 10. We don't have a number 10. We still don't have a number 10. So I think if you were to bring in those 3 players plus something a bit exotic and exciting, then maybe you're starting to get something together. But I think until they address that lack of creativity, even Amos and Pennington are not going to do that for you on pick holes and defences on a week-to-week basis. Those 2 behind a class Castro-style 10, maybe that would be exciting with Taggart in front of them, given Pearman's not going to be here. But yeah, until that happens, I think we're just going around in circles a little bit.
Boys, it leads me to a little bit of something I've been wanting to chat about for a couple of weeks. And this has been, just for those listeners, this has been kind of going on in the background. And I guess it initially started a little bit tongue-in-cheek, and I guess in a way it is, but you've kind of prompted me there because I kind of think if we are going to get a Sam Sutton, a Scott Wooden, keeper Tomislav Machela, are these guys better than a Kaylin Majeka-Dunmi alongside a Adriana Labib, for example? I'm just using those 2 as an example. As local players that want to come here, we probably don't have to pay them as much. Obviously, we spoke about these austerity measures that are going to be coming into the league. They won't take as much out of the cap. And, are we likely to get a similar output? This is where this whole kind of conversation came together for me, but just a little example there. But if the funds are going to be so low, and as the reports are the case across Perth Glory and the A-League, does Perth Glory, this is the question, need to adopt more of a Athletic Bilbao kind of mentality? And obviously Athletic Bilbao, they only develop and sign players from the Basque area of Spain. Does Perth Glory need to do something like that, make a line in the sand and say, right, we are only going to develop and produce WA players? And we've kind of gone backwards and forwards on social media. Neil, you've jumped in a couple of times. Jackson's jumped in a couple of times, and there's been quite a bit of engagement with this. But I guess the point of it as well, I feel, is that there's been, and this was spoken about at the fan forum, about the lack of local support and that parochial WA support for Perth Glory. Now, once upon a time, and I kind of use this as a bit of an example, back in 1996 when the Glory first started, I went and had a bit of a look, and I'd probably say that 90 to 95% of that side back in 1996 was WA players from either across Australia, Bobby Despotovsky, Robbie Zabika, these kind of guys were playing over east at the time, but majority of them came through the local leagues, what is essentially the NPL. They went on that season to finish 7th out of a 14-team league. Now, that's nothing to, I guess, be too over the top about, but in your first season with predominantly homegrown players to finish mid-table, and then compare it with what we've got at the moment, which is a lot of players from the rest of the best, which only seems to be the guys that that Perth Glory can attract on a ongoing basis, rather than kind of the pick of the bunch. We've heard from time to time about how hard it is to attract particularly those Eastern States players, those big gun players out here to the West. We've probably had a season under Popovich that we've done that very, very well. And other than that, it's been a couple of handy imports and the rest have been ongoing journeymen from time to time. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it, guys. I know, Neil, you're absolutely against it, but is there any merit to it whatsoever?
No. No, it does not. No. Because we're already in a league with so many restrictions, right? Why would you self-impose one on your squad that's already terrible? The whole purpose of this is to win things. I mean, Athletic Bilbao have never been relegated. They're competing at a totally different level to anything Glory probably ever would in terms of quality. I just don't think we have the structure and the facilities and again, in the Basque region, football is by far the most popular team sport. It's not here. We're competing against other codes and whatnot. Why would we hamstring ourselves further? I also think that you go down the road of tokenism with players. Like, you can play because you're from WA, but they might not be the best player. Like, why would you turn someone away who's better than what you've got when you don't have to? I just don't understand why you would impose those restrictions. I do take the point that bringing over players from the East Coast who contribute nothing at the expense of an equivalent in WA is absolutely the wrong thing to do. And we've seen plenty of examples of that over the years where development of players has been stunted by guys who are arguably not any better than them. So I think
let's use the example, Patrick Wood taking time away from local youngsters to develop a Sydney FC player, essentially.
But at the same time, exactly. And I don't have any argument against that, because I was against the signing from the start, not because it was Patrick Wood, but because of the circumstances and the fact that if he did do really well, you were going to send him developed back to Sydney FC to use next season. But one of the arguments for not bringing Patrick Wood in was to give Will Freeney games. Well, Will Freeney's not from WA, so he wouldn't be in the team. So I think you've got to be a little bit careful what you wish for in that regard. I do think that better management and better scouting would make you realise that you have some gems on your doorstep that you should be playing over signing guys. But to impose a WA only restriction formally, I don't think you'd win anything. I don't think you'd go anywhere, because the quality of there's such a difference between NPL football and A-League football. I just think the gulf, for one, is too big, and two, we don't have the setup and infrastructure here to have a consistent flow of an entire professional squad. If boys wanted to come back to WA, they'd probably have to do it on the cheap as well, because I mean, if you needed to bring some experience back to be part of that squad, who are you looking at? You're looking at someone like Shane Lowry. Is he going to give up the nice little earner he's got in Qatar to come back and help out the WA boys at Glory? Maybe, off the goodness of his heart, but I wouldn't expect him to when he's got earning power and years to play overseas. It was the same when the likes of Reece Williams was away and other lads like that. I just wouldn't expect them to come back to WA for nothing, essentially. No money. Great lifestyle, we all know about that, but maybe if they were going to be paid a similar wage, it would be a sweetener for them. But yeah, I just don't see how it could work. However, as much as I completely disagree with your concept, I do think that if we were better at identifying the WA talent that's there, rather than releasing them last year, or getting rid of them for cheap because they're on terrible contracts, we would actually be in a much better position. And we also have to hold our hand up and say that some of the young WA players that have been called for to get minutes have sank when they've gone into the team. And that happens. So not everyone is going to be a success, and we have to accept that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've also, I guess, the fact that we've got, where you talk about the identification, I mean, how many players have we seen that have bypassed the Perth Glory senior system altogether, or played limited amount of minutes. I mean, Benny got a decent kind of a season in, but, you James Overy, who's headed over to Manchester United. Alice Sakati's another one who just bypassed the whole Perth Glory system altogether. I mean, these should be capitalised on, surely, especially when they're in your own academy.
You would think so. Going back to the original question that you asked, Blaine, and just basing off Neil's answer as well, I think you can kind of meet somewhere in the middle. You can have more of a focus on signing WA players.
Get off the fence.
I think that's probably the best. That's probably the best approach. I would like to see us playing more WA players than signing Patrick Woods, for example, and utilising the academy more, and bringing these players up and giving them A-League minutes. But you also do need to balance it off with talent from the rest of Australia, because I think, to Neil's point, there probably isn't enough talent in WA to have a full team and be competitive, which obviously they're not competitive now, so you could do it now and it wouldn't make a difference. But if you wanted to be competing at the top of the league, which is what the club wants to do, then I do think that, you need to strike the right balance between promoting your local players and getting in quality from not only just around Australia, but the rest of the world as well, and utilising your foreign spots.
Yeah.
I think you have to, and it's kind of my point that, like, if the good young players are coming through, there's no guarantee that they're going to want to stay and play for Perth Glory either, right? Just because we have a WA only policy or whatever, they would still be free to be picked up by anyone else anywhere in the world in better leagues. I think a little bit of the attraction with Athletic Bilbao is there's not many better leagues than La Liga to go to. So if you're playing with Athletic Bilbao and you're in, Europe and you're towards the top of La Liga, there's not really many options that are better than that. Whereas if you're playing in the A-League for Perth Glory, there are hundreds of better options than that. So you're not only just competing against your locality and whatnot for players, as in the East Coast guys could snap them up at any stage. You're also competing against the world. So I think it'd be too hard to stop a player leaving. I mean, you look at the goalkeeping situation now, both goalkeepers, Sale and Cook, would be out of the picture because neither of them are from WA. They'd be gone. So who's your WA goalkeeper? Birighitti is obviously sitting there, and would now make sense, absolutely, and you get him in between the posts. So maybe that's your short-term fix given his age and whatnot. But yeah, where do you go with this production line of goalkeepers, for example? And because Glory's last lot of keepers, who was the last WA keeper to play for Glory, just as a start regularly for Glory?
Tando from
Tando, yeah, and he's still knocking around with Subi, so maybe you could get him back. But
I mean, someone that we've spoken about is a Jackson Lee or someone like that as well. So I mean, is that
and just as a little treat, we'll be speaking to Jackson again pretty soon. Let's see where he's going with Rhode Island. But would he give up that adventure he's having to come to an unstable Perth Glory environment? Maybe if the environment was more stable, it'd be different.
Would anyone give up that? I mean, this is the whole thing we've been talked about, that we can't attract players from across the league. So surely we're better off trying to attract WA players either back or bringing them up. And is the output similar? Is the investment going to be similar and the output similar? Then we might as well just stick local. This is, I guess, back to the original conversation. But it is interesting, the way that it goes. I don't think you did the exercise and the homework, Neil, but I think Jackson did, as far as putting together a little bit of a side. I mean, who are some of the names that you'd like to see, Jackson, if this was to be a thing?
Well, I have got an 11 made, and part of my criteria is that these are players who would be interested in playing for the Glory and who are, at an A-League level, so to speak. So, like, as much as we would like to have Sakati back at Glory, like, he's too far above the level to be even considered. So in goal, I've gone for Jack Duncan, because he was born in Perth, played in the NPL for Glory years and years ago. And he started off the season really strong for Victory, but ever since Mitchell Angarate came in, he's been kind of on the outer. So I think if you're looking at getting a West Australian-born keeper in, then I think he's Canada number one. Defence, I've gone Jack Clisby and Josh Risdon as your fullbacks, with Adriano Labib and Trent Sainsbury as your central defenders. Could have gone Alex Grant, but I think in terms of leadership qualities and what he can teach a young player like Labib, I had Sainsbury just over him. But good options in defence. Midfield was a bit more challenging, so I ended up settling with Brandon O'Neill and Luke Bodnar, which is ironic because that was the midfield that started in the Australia Cup all those months ago, at the very beginning of pre-season when Glory's form was good. And as far as the attack goes, I've got Cameron Taggart combined with Danny De Silva and Ryan Williams, who I would love to see. There's one other player that I wanted to mention as well, and he's not from WA, but I would love to see him back at the Glory, is Henry Hoare, because he was in the Glory system all those years ago, and I've been really impressed with him ever since he came back from Korea. He's been really good for Brisbane. But I think the 11 that I've got there, you put the question out, would that be better than what we've got currently? I think that team would be pretty competitive in the league. Probably wouldn't be competing at the top end, but it would be putting on a better show, and could be up towards mid-table, maybe like 8th or 9th, around there.
Yeah. I mean, I put some names together, and these are, I guess, the pick that you could say from, I guess, some of the performers in NPL all the way up to some of our Socceroos. I mean, Mark Birighitti, for me, as we've just spoken about, is probably a little bit of a shoe-in for someone who'd be stable between the sticks. Risdon Sakati, Cam Burgess, of course. I mean, he's 31 now. Does he look to come back to the A-League in a couple of years' time? That might be an option. Clisby, Taggart, Pearman, Overy, Benny. I've gone with Charlie Checklash from Fremantle City. I think he's been super impressive. Just a good young hard a midfielder who likes to get stuck in. Jackson Lee, Cal Timmins, David Ninkovic is pretty handy at NPL level. The Bib, Shane Lowry, Alex Grant, Clay Gibbs, good promising youngster up there at Sorrento, Ryan Williams. I like the look of Luca Herninger as an 18-year-old playing senior football for Perth Azuri at the moment, Kazamba at Perth Glory, Despotovsky at Perth Glory, De Silva, Peter Jacobs, who's, of course, the Golden Boot from last year. So, I mean, I haven't had a proper look at putting this side together, but there is some names there and some food for thought on what that might look like if this was to be a thing. So, as I said, fully hypothetical, but always fun to have these little conversations from time to time. And I don't know if we should be sitting in a bar somewhere, Neil, having this conversation over a pint, I think.
It'd be a very quick conversation, but no, look, I think it's a lot of you need a lot of things to go right for it to be successful, I guess, is my thing. That just because you want WA players doesn't mean they all want to be here. So I think that's probably where you'd fall down. But I think my other point is that the league is already weighted in favour of Australian players because we only allow a certain amount of visa players. If it was up to me, I would remove the restriction on visa players, and then you just be the best Australian players and you play if you're good enough. But other people have different ideas about that because it takes takes spots away from them and whatnot. But if we were to expand to an 18-team competition, I don't think there's good enough Australian players to go around. So you may have to loosen those restrictions anyway to keep the standard high and become an attractive prospect for players from overseas. But that's all further down the track. I think the league has already got restrictions with visa players and with salary cap and whatnot. But I'm also not opposed to actually looking at what's on your doorstep. To Jackson's point, Henry Hoare is someone else that was released from Glory after getting Player of the Year in the NYL, as it was at the time. And he's proven to be more than capable A-League player who would walk into Glory's team now when he's 25. So another one that got away, and that's probably the biggest issue. We might not be having this conversation if so many didn't just walk out the door.
Yep. No, very good points. Well made. Boys, just before we go to the break, just a quick look back at the A-League, the penultimate round. Macarthur went down 2-1 to Melbourne victory. Brisbane, they beat Wellington Phoenix, which relegates Perth to the wooden spoon. Newcastle, they went down 1-0 to Western Sydney. A good crowd that travelled up to Newcastle from the Wanderers. Melbourne City 0, Adelaide 0. Auckland 1, Perth 0, and Western United 1, Sydney FC 0, which means that they are on death's door as far as their finals hopes. So, interesting to see how the rest of the coming week, which we'll talk about in a quick second, all plays out. Right, let's take a quick break and we'll come back for more. We'll get set to wrap things up after this. You're on the Far Post Perth podcast.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Tired of the same old cookie-cutter home designs? Dreaming of a space that truly reflects you? Then it's time to talk to the team at Trio Homes. Whether you're looking to build your dream home, redesign your current space, or simply renovate, Trio Homes is committed to unique designs, local personalised service, and quality workmanship. And with former Perth Glory star Dino Julbich at the helm, you'll know you're getting passion and dedication built into every project. Discover the difference with Trio Homes. Visit triohomes.com.au.
Final part of the Far Post Perth podcast. Big thank you to ID Athletic and, of course, Trio Homes. Gents, we went through the second last round. We'll have a look at the last round fixtures, what that looks like, maybe some of the permutations in a quick second. Perth Glory women's season is done. We had some A-League finals across the weekend. These were both eliminations. So Canberra, they got sent packing with a 2-1 loss to Central Coast up there in Gosford. I'm not sure if you guys saw that, but there was a incident there with a ball boy who actually just got a little bit over anxious. The ball was kind of going out and he kind of it kind of went back in and he went onto the pitch and picked it up, and it was a little bit of a comical moment there from the Dubs. So
someone should have gone full Eden Hazard and pushed him over. Take retribution.
That's it. So Central Coast march on, and Adelaide United, they beat Western United 1-0. So we'll have some semi-finals. I do like this double-legged semi-finals. First legs this weekend back at the Central Coast Stadium up there in Gosford. They were going to take on Melbourne City. So a bit of a tough ask there for Central Coast to get over Melbourne City across the two legs. And Adelaide, they'll be in two legs against Melbourne Victory. So that'll be really interesting to see how all that plays out. And, of course, that original rivalry, whether that will kind of spill over to the women's game as well. I might just have a quick look at what is happening locally. There is an Australia Cup this weekend. Stirling Massos will take on Kingsley. Kalamunda v Subi, Bayswater v Quinns, Olympic Kingsway will host Perth Soccer Club. Inglewood United v Fremantle City, Floreat v Balcatta, Canning City v Murdoch Uni, and Western Knights v Curtin Uni. So that is the fifth round of the Australia Cup, the Football West section of the Australia Cup. A couple of NPL results. Bayswater City, big win over Balcatta Etna. They are flying at the moment. Bayswater City 4-0. Red Star went down to Perth 1-0. Florida Athena, boys, they might be in a little bit of strife. They went down to fellow cellar dwellers in Fremantle City 2-0. Sorrento, they had their first win of the season against the very up and down Stirling Macedonia. Armidale went down to Olympic Kingsway, who are near the top as well. And Perth Glory, they're flying as well, doing very well. They beat Western Knights 3-0. So any thoughts, observations from the NPL?
No, not really. It kind of sums up where everything's gone. No, there's been some good goals, I suppose. There's been a few storylines in particular, I suppose, around. Obviously, we've got a little bit of an eye on what Perth Glory are doing this season compared to probably previous years, where they're not leaving their fight for survival until the last few weeks. So I think, and they're doing it without the A-League players as such. I think Nathaniel Blair is the only one that's really playing every week. I might be right in saying.
I think Kwan goes in there most weeks as well.
Most weeks, but he's gone off to New Zealand with the senior squad, so he's not around at the moment. But yes, they are doing it better in terms of results. And Bayswater, look, I think Bayswater in the off season were tipped to do really well. Matt Sparrow left Freo and moved across to Bayswater, which was pretty big coup, because he's obviously had an amazing playing career and started off his managerial career really well with Freo, and it was a big loss for them. But Bayswater, let's be honest, they've chucked a bit of money around, which you need to do in the league to get up towards the top, and they've started with 100% record. They've got a good coach, they've got a good group of players, and that preseason prediction of them being thereabouts is definitely coming to fruition. Kingsway have not been playing well in the last couple of weeks by their own admission, but they've been getting the results. I mean, it's a little bit easier when you're playing against 9 men in Armadale, but they're going to be hot on their heels and challenging as well. So I think the ladder's taken is a bit of shape at the moment, and Glory probably the surprise relative to previous seasons, but Bayswater, Kingsway, Glory, probably going to be thereabouts. Sorrento will just be happy, I think, consolidating their first season back after promotion, and you can see that with some of their results. And poor Donna's Sterling having a little bit of a rough time at the moment, so they're maybe one to keep an eye on in terms of needing to get a few results on the board over the next few weeks. So, and then there's always that battle for relegation as well. Who loses their status? Because it seems to be quite huge for clubs when they go down. Some bounce back pretty quickly, but others go down and could stay down.
Yeah, I mean, look at the likes of Coburn and Inglewood and these kind of these types of clubs. So really interesting to see how that. What is interesting, from fourth to fifth already, there's a 6-point gap. So I mean, there is already a bit of a split between the haves and the have-nots as far as the points on the board already in the season, Jackson. So I guess we'll see how all of that plays out. Just having a quick look, I won't go through the results, but just a quick look. State Div 1, Dinella White Eagles, a big win over Guelph, Croatia. They sit 1 and 2. The big rivalry between those two clubs. UWA Kalamunda City in the 4 there. Mandurah City, I put something on Facebook. What the hell is happening at Mandurah City? This was supposed to be the year of all years, Neil.
I think the last 2 years were meant to be the years of all years. They just missed out both times, and maybe they were in a bit of a golden era with the playing group and whatnot, and it's just gone 1 year too long. And it's a very bleak out, and they would have been expected to challenge again this year. I think Dianella would have been up there. Guelph having a bit of a resurgence, but the thing with that division is there's no salary cap, right? So you can chuck money at whoever you like, right, left and centre. And not that you buy the league, but it definitely goes a long way to helping get promoted to the MPL.
Yeah. And you don't have any restrictions on imports?
No restrictions on imports, on ages, on points, any of that stuff that you then have to deal with when you go up. But Mandurah have great facilities, got a great batch of juniors, they've got a big catchment area. And yeah, I think last season was probably a bit of a devastating blow that they didn't get it at the second time of asking, and now this is going to be very difficult to recover from for them. So I don't think they'll get relegated or anything like that, but getting that all-important spot to the MPL, and it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing for that part of the world to have an MPL side that could consolidate and bring players through, but you've got to earn it. That's the beauty of promotion and relegation.
Yeah, no, I'd love to see Mandurah in there. I think it's important that our if I can call them a regional area, has some kind of presence in the top leagues, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen this year. So we'll see how that goes. A quick look at State Div 2. Quins lead the way alongside Coburn City, who fell pretty dramatically, as I just said. East Perth also in the mix, along with Caramar Shamrocks, all the way down to Forestfield United and Wembley Downs. Now, Wembley Downs came up, of course. But Forestfield United, they'd be wanting to get their skates on as well. That's a pretty pretty proud club up there with some tremendous facilities. Geez, that'd be devastating to have them on Sundays, Neil.
Well, they already have a Sunday team as well, so they'd be having two Sunday teams in the amateur leagues. And I think, again, like clubs have gone into free fall. If you mentioned Ellenbrook were one that haven't been able to get back up. I mean, they were handed a spot probably unfairly, if we're being honest, because of their catchment area and facilities and whatnot. And they didn't have the players to sustain it. They were in a bit of free fall trying to stabilise in Division 1 now for the last couple of years. But it is a dangerous slippy slope, and we know that clubs have survived by the skin of their teeth, but others not being able to take promotion. Wanneroo were the ones that were lucky last year and could have fallen off a cliff had they gone down. Morley are trying to get their way back up. Didn't do it last year. Probably not going to do it this year based on what I've seen so far around the amateur teams. Forestfield, great facility, great setup out there. But again, that is the beauty of the competitions. You go down if you're not good enough on the pitch, and someone else will be waiting to take your place. There's some strong teams in the amateur league with ambition to go to Saturday football. Emerald were the ones that missed out last year. I know Kelmscott are desperate to get it after years of trying. And Kelmscott are another club with very good facilities that would add a lot to Saturday football if they were to go up. So nothing's guaranteed, and you can say Forestfield, had a really good run, went to the NPL for a season, did they? And we're up there, but nothing's forever. So there's a few clubs that are, I don't want to say sleeping giants, it's probably overselling it a little bit, but good facilities, put a lot of money into infrastructure, into their juniors, and they really need that top pathway team for that. Otherwise you risk losing them, right? Because you're in a catchment area where there's another NPL team down the road or another big club. And I know that all too well have been involved in Joondalup United. If you don't have the facilities, you're going to lose players. Well, if you don't have the status in the leagues, you're probably going to lose them as well. So a lot of work to do for a few clubs this year.
Yep, absolutely. Quick look, round 7 of the NPLW, some big fixtures, UWAV, Mum FC. Both of those two teams are struggling at the moment. They'll want to get their skates on. Big one between Red Star and Balcatta. Fremantle City will take on Subiaco. Match of the round, without a doubt, is the two unbeaten teams. Perth Soccer Club are taking on the Football West Academy side. If you can, get out to that one. There's some really good, talented players that are coming through that NTC side at the moment. And that's going to be the next gen, and they'll go against, I guess, a lot of the previous gen from NTC who are now with Perth. So well worth checking that one out. Right, boys, to wrap things up, let's get some tips for the last round of the Men's A-League. Wellington v Perth, believe it or not, Friday nights at the Cape Ton.
I will say draw.
Ooh.
I'm going to say most people won't see this because they'll be working.
Yep.
And I don't think people will be skiving off for a 3:30 Perth time kickoff to watch this one. But yes, it will be the old bald men fighting over a comb edition of the A-League, and Wellington and Perth Glory to draw. Yeah.
I think you've used that expression before, and I reckon it's a belter, so keep using it. I'm going to go Wellington. I just think they're going to be far too strong. Believe it or not, might be a little bit buoyant that Chiefy's going to be remaining there. So we'll see how that goes. Central Coast v Brisbane. Jackson.
Oh God. The funny thing is, the first two games we could be seeing replays of them in the Australia Cup in a couple of weeks' time.
True.
I will say Brisbane.
Neil?
Yeah, I was actually going to go Brisbane as well. The form team, let's say that. Brisbane.
I'm going to go draw. Yeah. Melbourne City, do they knock Sydney out of the finals, Jackson?
I think Sydney get up. I'll put my faith in them one last time.
Oh, Neil.
No, I think they get the draw they need.
They get the draw. All right.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see. All right, we'll have a bit of a look to see how that one goes. What else have we got? We have got Western United v Auckland, which should have been a match of the round, should have been the final match of the season and for the title, but it won't be.
I'm raw for that one. I think Western United get a point out of that at least.
Yeah, I think because it's at Western United, they'll get a draw. Auckland won't really care. They won't want to lose, but they won't be going hell for leather either. I think, draw will suit both teams.
I think Auckland come out in this one, and the reason I say that is they'll get the following week off due to the elimination. So I think they'll want to have a good hit out for this one, and then take the week off, if that makes any sense. Macarthur v Western Sydney. Jackson.
Oh, Western Sydney. Yeah, you don't have to hesitate for that one.
Yeah, Western Sydney as well for me.
Yeah, Wanderers for me. And last game of the round, Melbourne Victory v Newcastle.
Victory.
Yep. Even though they've already got their finals booked.
Yeah, you always want to go in with confidence and off the back of a win. So yeah, I'll back them in against the Jets, who've got nothing to play for.
Yep. Cool. Neil.
I think the Jets might have something to play for in that was it Rob Stanton's last game?
Correct.
And a lot of players have rated what he's done, and fans as well. So I think they might put on a little bit of a good show in that one and get a draw. So yeah, we'll go with that.
All right, we'll see how it all plays out. Gents, thanks very much for jumping on. Of course, a little bit differently to do this podcast this evening, so I certainly appreciate it. And you might be just sitting at home a little bit more snug in your homes rather than having to get out on a little bit of a cooler Tuesday night, so we certainly appreciate that. Big thank you to Trio Homes and, of course, ID Athletic, and to all the listeners, big thank you to you for your support no matter where you are listening. We're starting to get a fair bit of traction, not only in Perth, but across Australia and across the world. And a big thank you to our international listeners and followers as well. So we'll wrap things up there. Make sure you tell all your friends about the podcast, available now through Spotify, through Apple, and through YouTube Music. And we'll catch you next time for more on the Far Post Perth podcast.